For today's art class, you're going to need a piece of watercolour paper. You don't need to tape it down all sides because we're only working in the middle part. You also need some watercolour paints, acrylic paints. I'm using black and white. And I'm also going to be using these Posca pens, which are an acrylic paint, but they're just in pen form. So I really like these. If you're ever out buying art supplies, I recommend that you give one of these a little try. Sometimes they don't flow as smoothly as you would like, but if you don't have a Posca pen, that's where you can use the acrylic paints. So I'll show you how to use both. You're going to need a paint palette, a pencil and an eraser, and you're also going to need a couple of different paint brushes. I just use round ones, I think that's round in there, and just a jar of clean water. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I've done here, I've just used a picture frame actually, and I've just outlined a square shape. Now what I'm going to do, I need to divide this shape into 9 equal parts. So I'm just going to use my mixing palette. I'm just going to roughly guide. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to roughly guide where I want those lines, and then inside those lines I'm going to draw, or inside the square kind of shapes, I'm going to draw pebble inspired shapes. So I've previously painted on some rocks, and I thought it would be fun to paint some rocks, but we're going to give these rocks a little twist. So the thing that inspired me, and often sometimes just random things do inspire you, is the fact that I did draw on those rocks. So what I'm going to do is paint some rocks and actually create patterns on those rocks using the black and white acrylic paints, or the black and white acrylic Posca pen. So I'm hoping you can see that. I'll zoom in. Hopefully you can see the shape there. Pretty sure you can. Now what I'm going to do now is just draw on these and create kind of rounded off circles. And these don't have to be perfect, and I'm going to do really different shapes. You can do shapes that fit up almost a square. So kind of like rounded off squares. I'm really into curved lines at the moment, and repetition. So you never quite know where the inspiration is going to come from to create your next artwork. I've not ever done this before, so I hope that it works out. But if not, you never know until you give things a try. So I'm hoping that this actually does look kind of cute. I've got another idea for rock shapes as well. Something very similar to this. However, they're just going to be piled on top of each other. I love watching those people that can do those balancing rocks. That just fascinates me. So that's why I've been into rocks lately, because I'm truly fascinated by how clever those people are that do that balancing of the rocks. All right, so what we're going to do now, we have to make a decision. What kinds of colours are we going to do our rocks? Now you can go natural colours, or you can choose to go, just really lovely colours. It doesn't, well, I think natural colours are lovely, but you can use, shades of pinks or shades of greens or mixtures. It's totally up to you. And if you don't have watercolour, I am imagining that this would still work if you used acrylics. So if you used acrylic paint, you can still do the same technique. It's just not going to have watercolour underneath. It's going to be acrylic. So my choice is pretty much, I think I'm just going to do natural colours for this one and just see how it goes. So what I'm going to do, I'll probably actually rub out those rocks that I've done just so they're not so dark, because I really don't want the pencil to be a feature. But if you like that style, you are welcome to do this activity however you like, or you can just use this activity just to inspire you. That's totally up to you. So I'm going to rub this out. I'm going to pre-wet each of these shapes because I want to get a variation in the colour. I don't want it like we're just colouring in the shapes. I want to create some depth, some interest in each one of those circles. And the way to do that with watercolour is just to pre-wet. And pre-wet allows the paint or the pigments in the watercolour paint just to explore the water, and it follows the run of the water. So some of the colour is really quite light and some of the colour remains dark. So that's almost done. And I'm not too worried about these square lines at the moment because I'm going to erase those after I have finished painting this whole thing and it's dried. So I'll just do one and show you one. I'll do the middle one. And then what I'm going to do is press pause, or I might even show you how I've painted each one and just speed it up so you don't have to sit for 15 minutes watching me paint these. So I'm imagining this is another quick and easy art style or art piece that you can do. So I've pre-wet that. Now I'm going to use, I actually quite like this darkish brown here. So I'm going to do the same technique, just put tiny blobs of paint. I'm wanting variation. So I'm wanting some dark spots and some light spots. And to do that means that you just pretty much use the one dip on your paintbrush. So I've just dipped it in once. Now I'm going to just give it a little bit more colour here and there. And then what I'm going to do is wipe the paint off my paintbrush with a piece of tissue. I might just put a little bit more water on my paintbrush, not too much. So what I do, shake my water, I scrape it off the side, I take some of the water off, and then I spread out some of that paint. And that's going to create the variation in. And if I don't want that much pigmentation or that much colour, I'll just wipe it off onto my paintbrush. So this looks quite effective, I think. I really want to make sure that I create those lovely smooth lines around the edge because that's the whole point of this. I want it to be nice and smooth, but still with variation. And it's allowing a foundation for me to go over the top with some different mediums. So I'll be using either acrylic paints or acrylic pen. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do is do exactly what I've just done to all of these, but I'm just going to vary the browns that I use basically. I'm just going to create this with all neutral colours. So I'm going to press stop, but then I'm going to speed up the next part of this process. Okay, so there it is finished. I'm just going to let that dry, and once it's dried I'm going to erase the square lines that I've created around the outside of those lovely organic shapes. Now remember, you can use any colour you like. You can use greens, you can use rainbow colours. This is just the idea, and today, because I've been working with rocks and I'm really inspired by rocks at the moment, I decided to use all these brown neutral colours. So I'm going to press stop, and then when I come back, I'm going to have this erased and we're going to get started on the next step. So I've erased all of the pencil lines. I've done a little bit of a smudge here, but that doesn't matter too much. What I'm going to do is just show you what I plan on doing in these, some of these. So I might choose to leave these one colour, and what I'm going to do is do some pencil lines or some dots, just create repetition of patterns in some of these. Now this one's quite thick. I've actually got a white pen that I might just grab and I might use that instead. Okay, so this is the white pen that I use. It's a Uniball. This is actually a thin one. I might go and get the thick one. So I'll put that aside just for this second, and I'll show you just some things that I'm going to do. So all I'm going to do is just create patterns in these things, and this one I'm just going to do dots on it. Now if you don't have one of these pens, what you can actually do is use the tip of a pencil and then just dip it in some of the acrylic paint, and then that creates a very small dot. So I'm not going to do it on this one because I want to keep that consistency going. So I'm just doing dots on this. The next one I'm going to use the pen, so I'll press pause and I'll come back. Okay, I couldn't find my usual one, so I'm just going to give this one a try. So I might do up here, and this one I'm just going to do triangles on it. Clearly the other one would have worked much better, but it's not overly important. This activity here is to just show you ideas on how to do it. So I'm just doing triangles. Triangles aren't perfect, and this one isn't working too greatly, so I might swap over to the other one and see how that one works. That's a little bit smoother. So I'm not really wanting to create anything in particular. I'm just doing tiny little lines. Some of them aren't going to be triangles, and I'm okay with that too. So I'm not going to show you the rest of that actual shape there. I'm also going to show you can do more organic style shapes. So I've got the white paint here, and I'll mix up just to get the tip, and you might decide, hopefully you can see that, you might decide just to do little paint, like little rough paints of colour. So mine's more a consistent pattern when I use the pens, and this one is just a more organic pattern on it. Now as I'm painting this, I have in my head another thing that we might be able to try, so I can create a different art class. It's going to be more smooth flowing, not so much, well actually it's not going to be, it'll be smooth, but it's not going to be as organized as this. So it's still in line with the same idea, but we can do a nice colorful one, lots of movement and flow and interaction with the colors. So I think that's going to be the next art class after this one. So see how that creates, it's not exactly perfect, but it still creates a lot of interest. So more organic style, you know, not perfection there. So that's another thing you can do. And there's one more thing I may as well show you with the pencil. So what you can actually do is get the lead pencil, and you can dip it in the paint. Make sure you don't get too much on it. And then you can create dots. So I'll do the dots up here. These dots, again, are a bit more organic than the dots that are made with that, because there's no real consistency in these ones. It's really hard to get like perfect dots doing this method, but I like both methods. This is fun. It's kind of like printing. Okay, so I'm not going to show you every little shape, but what I'll do, I'll press stop and I'll finish creating some different patterns on these watercolour painted rocks, and then I'll come back once I've finished that. Okay, and then we have our finished artwork. Now, as you can see, I haven't done patterns in every single one. I wanted to leave some of them just blank, just to create a little bit more interest. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I hope you have found it useful, and I hope you've learned another technique that you can do using watercolours. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Free Art Class by Bit of a Hippie, and if you would like, I also have a Facebook group called Free Art Class, where you get updated with each new video that I share, and you also get the opportunity to share any of the paintings that you've created from watching my videos. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.